Future Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. I can't believe how fast years go by now. It's the end of 2024. This is part of my end of 2024 best of series. Right now we're going to be looking at my top 5 party games. Here we go.
Number 5.
Night Night is a silly little game where you're throwing pillows at each other. I put this as, it's kind of like Throw Throw Burrito, but it's actually fun. Throw Throw Burrito was like a funny mass market game that was very popular but not very good. This has some similarities to that, but it's actually fun. In this game, everyone is simultaneously flipping a card over. Depending on what cards got flipped over and the interactions of those cards, you're going to do certain things. Sometimes you're going to need to grab a pillow and throw it at somebody. Sometimes you need to grab a pillow and defend with it. Sometimes you're supposed to do nothing, regardless of what else happened. Sometimes you're going to need to pretend like you're sleeping. It's silly, it's fun, it's a speed game, but at the same time, you still have to think about what's out there because you can't just rush or you're not going to win. It's a very unique, interesting game. Again, I've reviewed this game, so you can check out my full review on my channel. But if you're looking for a fun little light game that will have you laughing for sure, Night Night is it.
Number 4.
This next one is Mind Map. In this game, there are going to be certain word cards and then certain aspects. And you will secretly have one of these. And you're trying to figure out where in an XY grid am I, and where in an XY grid do I think everybody else is. It's a very unique combination. I've reviewed this if you want to see in detail how it works. But essentially, you're looking at the relationships between two different things. And you're trying to figure out who everybody else is. Because everyone's basically trying to put a marker of their color somewhere on this XY grid that says, how much is my thing like this? And how much is my other thing like that? And you're just looking at this XY grid and going, well, this other card is the most of this, so maybe they're that. But then they're low on this other side. And it's this interesting dichotomy of putting two things together, trying to figure out what two things somebody else is, and voting on who you think had which cards. Just based on the ranges of how things are, is it a lot of this or not a lot of that? So again, check out my full review on how it's played, but it's a very unique game.
Number 3.
Okay, this one is as if the game poker was combined with a popular cooperative game that came out a few years ago called The Mind. And in this game, you're working together cooperatively to try to figure out how do you rank everyone's poker hands from lowest to best. Because at the beginning of the round, you're going to get a pocket cards, 2 cards. And from that information, you're trying to figure out, where am I? Do I think I'm the best? Do I think I'm the worst? Do I think I'm in the middle? There's not a lot of things. You can't say anything about your cards and such. You're just sort of trying to take things. And then the flop's going to happen, and just like a poker. And then based upon that, you take another token from 1 to whatever. What do you think you have the best or the worst or the middle? And then the next card's going to come, the river, the turn. And you're going to go till you have a full set of poker. And so only the last one matters, the red token. All the other tokens that you have are basically just information. You're just trying to get information about where people were at what point, where they thought they were at what point, and at the end, where does everyone think they are? And you're sort of jockeying, and again, you can't mention what you have in your hands, you can't mention anything that only you have information on, but you're trying to work together to figure out where everybody's at. It's an interesting social experiment. It's fun. Even if you have it does play best if you know poker well, if everybody at the table knows poker well. If not, they might end up making you lose. It's part of the game. There's also ways that as you play that if you're winning, it gets harder. If you're losing, it gets a little easier. They give you a little ability. They sort of self-balance it that way. And you're either going to win 3 rounds or lose 3 rounds. Whichever happens first happens. Very interesting game. Lots of fun. I've had tons of fun with this, and that is the game.
Number 2.
All right, this next one is Link City. Now, this is a fully cooperative game where each turn, one player is going to be the mayor and all the other players are going to be working together. So the mayor secretly will look at 3 tiles, which are essentially districts that are going to be going into the city. It might be things like the barbershop or a skyscraper or a courthouse or a park or a prison or an airport. And they're trying to figure out where should these three things go. There's going to be some cones out in the city, and those are the different areas that these three tiles have to go. And the mayor's trying to slot, which one should go where? Which one makes most sense thematically in my own brain? Like, where should these go? And then once those are set, all the other players discuss where they think. Now they can actually see the tiles, and they're like, well, where should these go? Which place on the map should these go based upon the color of the cones? And they're talking it through, and then you're figuring it out. If you're right, well, then those get to go there, and then essentially you're going to be scoring points every time a tile is connected. You're scoring points with the trees. And there's even ways of getting bonuses if you get them all right. If you get them wrong, you're putting them diagonally to give you some more strategy about where to place things. This is a really fun game. It's definitely a party game where it's all about the discussion of what people think, which thing should go next to what, where should you be placing the cones. That has some strategy to it too. So it has a light bit of strategy, but mostly it's a party game, socializing and talking about why you think this city district should go next to this other city district. It is a ton of fun, and that is Link City.
Number 1.
All right, this one is Landmarks. Now this game, check out my review of this on my channel, because I kind of called it possibly a Codenames killer. It's not really, because I love Codenames to death, but it might be for some. Because this game can be played both cooperatively or team-based. Now I recommend playing it cooperatively first because it's easier to teach, but the team game is the better version in my opinion. Now in this game, there's a map out there, and it starts seated with 3 words. And then on your turn, you as the clue giver, you're trying to get your team to find the treasures on the map. They don't know where they are, but you do. So you're giving them a 1-word clue on a hex, and you give it to them. They're trying to figure out where on the map do you want them to go. And they're going to do that by looking at the word and seeing which word or words does it kind of go with. Sometimes you want it to be with just 1 word, so you make it be like something that matches that, but doesn't match anything that's around it. Other times you're like, I want them to put it next to these 2 words. So you come up with a word that has to do with both of those things. Sometimes 3 of these things. And you're trying to basically guide them to certain spots to get the treasures. But there's also bad things that can happen. You can step in traps, you can get cursed, you can end the game that way. In the team-based game, you're trying to get them to treasures that are just yours. But there's also neutral treasures that by accident you might give them to the other team. You know, it's interesting. It's a very unique game. It was similar to a game that came out a few years ago called Mystic Paths, which I thought was very interesting, but in the end it was just too long and too convoluted. This is a much more streamlined sort of implementation of that. But if you like Codenames and you want something that's similar but still feels very different, Landmarks is just absolutely fantastic. Well, I hope this helped you find some party games there. And that last one, of course, is more of a thinky party game that has like a hoo-ha or laughing party game. But hopefully that helps you find out of some. And again, I've reviewed those. You can check them out on my channel. It's the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games, and helping you buy the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and their 4.5 Kickstarter introduced the new Galactic Mycroft and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. The campaign recently ended, but it's not too late to pledge late at GameToppersLLC.com.